Once upon a time, there was a magical land where everything was completely crazy. The leaves on the trees were red. The grass was purple. The water in the rivers was yellow. Now, in this land, there lived a huge, enormous, gigantic lion. And he lived in a marshmallow. A big, huge marshmallow as big as a big room. And whenever he got hungry, all he had to do was go over to the wall of the marshmallow and eat delicious marshmallow. Yum, 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 yum. And he had plenty of food, and the marshmallow never got any smaller. Well, in this land, there was a magic rock. Now, the rock was about this big and about this tall. And every day, just at noon, there was a loud pop, and up out of the rock came a very big vanilla ice cream cone. And about 5 minutes after that, there was another pop, and up came a large chocolate ice cream cone. Well, about 5 minutes after that, there was another loud pop, and up came a strawberry ice cream cone. Every day, all the little animals that lived in the forest lined up very, very nicely to take their turn for an ice cream cone. Now, on this one day, they were all ready for the first ice cream cone, when all of a sudden there was a smashing and tashing and tearing of the trees, and they started to shake back and forth, and out of the forest stepped a huge, enormous T-Rex. And he looked down at all the little animals lined up by the rock, and he said in a mean voice, "What's going on here? I wonder why you're all pop." Up came the vanilla ice cream cone. He looked down and he said, "Oh, vanilla. That's my favorite ice cream." And he bent down his big, huge head and he bit the ice cream cone right off the top of the rock. Well, all the little animals said, "You can't do that. That's not fair. You're supposed to stand in line. You can't take that." And the T-Rex looked down and he said, "Oh, yeah? I'm bigger than you and I can do whatever I want, Pop." Up came the chocolate ice cream cone. And he looked down and in a big, nasty smile, he said, "Oh, chocolate, that's my favorite ice cream." And he reached down his big head and bit off the chocolate ice cream cone and swallowed it. And all the little animals said, "You're mean. You can't do that. You're supposed to stand in line and just like everybody else, you can't take the ice cream cones off of yourself." And he said, "Oh, yeah, I can do." Pop. Up came the strawberry ice cream cone. Well, the T-Rex gave a laugh and he said, "Strawberry, that's my favorite ice cream." And he bent his big head down and bit off the strawberry ice cream cone. And the little animals told him that was very, very mean. He couldn't do that. and he went smashing and tashing all the way out, away through the forest. Well, the next day, all the little animals were lined up again, and in the front of the line was a baby elephant. And behind the baby elephant was a baby giraffe. And behind the giraffe was a little baby bunny rabbit. And they were all very nicely lined up when there was a smashing and crashing of branches and the treetops started to shake back and forth, and out stepped the T-Rex. And he said, well, I wonder why you're all gathered up here today. Pop! Up came the vanilla ice cream cone. And he looked down and he said, oh, vanilla, that's my favorite ice cream. And he reached down his big head and bit off the ice cream cone. And each time the chocolate ice cream cone and the strawberry ice cream cone came up, he bit them off and ate them. And the little animals told him he was mean and nasty, but he didn't care. And then he went smashing and crashing away through the forest. Well, that afternoon, all the little animals went to the huge, gigantic marshmallow. And they called in the door opening of the marshmallow, oh, Mr. Lion, Mr. Lion, are you in there, Mr. Lion? And from inside came a deep, growling voice. Well, yes, little animals, I'm in here. What's the problem? Oh, Mr. Lion, we've got terrible trouble. We've got terrible trouble. You've got to come out. We've got to tell you about it. Mr. Lion said, well, I'll be right out, little animals. And pretty soon he came out, and all the little animals told him exactly what happened. And he thought about it for a while, and then he said, has anybody seen Alfred? And they all looked at each other, looked around, and they said, no, we haven't seen Alfred for a long time. And then in his deep lion's voice, he said, well, little children, go out and find Alfred and bring him to me. I need to talk to him. So all the little animals went out through the forest, all calling, Alfred, Alfred, where are you? Alfred. Nothing. Until late in the afternoon, a baby deer was far, far away from the marshmallow calling for Alfred when he heard a very squeaky voice. Well, what is everybody calling me about? Why is everybody calling for me all through the forest? And the baby deer turned around, and there, at the bottom of a tree, was a little tiny, tiny mouse with a long tail. And the baby deer ran over and said, Alfred, Alfred, I'm so glad to find you. We have a terrible problem, and Mr. Lion needs to see you right away. And Alfred said, well, okay, if Mr. Lion wants to see me. And just then, a big crow flew down and landed and said, hop on my back, Alfred, and I'll take you to the marshmallow. So Alfred scampered up on the crow's back, and the crow flew away through the forest to the marshmallow. When Alfred got there, he hopped off the crow and called into the marshmallow. Mr. Lion, Mr. Lion, did you want to see me? And from inside came Mr. Lion's deep voice. Why, yes, Alfred, I did want to see you. Come right in. Are you hungry? And Alfred said, well, yes, I'm a little hungry. And Mr. Lion said, well, help yourself to some marshmallow, Alfred, before we talk. And Alfred went over to the side of the marshmallow. And he ate and ate until his little belly stuck way, way out in front of him. Well, after that, Alfred and Mr. Lion talked way into the night. And if you were standing outside the marshmallow, this is what it would have sounded like. Mr. Lion, Alfred, Mr. Lion, Alfred. And after they had talked and talked and talked, they went to sleep. Well, the next day, all the little animals lined up at the rock, and Mr. Lion was lying on the ground right beside the rock. And on the top of Mr. Lion's head, in all his dark fur, was Alfred, who held out his hands and peeked out through Mr. Lion's fur. Well, it was almost time for the ice cream cones, when there was a smashing and tearing and crashing of branches, and the treetops started to shake, and out stepped the T-Rex. And he looked down and he said, "Well, I wonder what all of you were lined up doing today. You're not waiting for anything, are you?" Pop! Up came the vanilla ice cream cone. The T-Rex looked down and he said, "Oh, vanilla. That's my favorite ice cream." And he reached down his big head to bite off the ice cream cone when Mr. Lion, who was on the ground right there, opened his mouth and gave his biggest, hugest roar. And the T-Rex stopped, with his bent over with his head, looking at the lion, and he said, "Who are you?" And Mr. Lion said, "I'm Mr. Lion, and you are taking ice cream cones from these little animals." Well, while he was talking, Alfred ran down Mr. Lion's head, down on his back, down along his back, down off his leg, onto the grass, across the grass to the T-Rex's leg, scampered up the T-Rex's leg, up his back, and down into his ear, because his head was turned sideways, way down deep inside his head in his ear. And the T-Rex said to Mr. Lion, "I don't have to pay attention to you. I'm bigger than you. I can do..." And from inside his head, Alfred started screaming in his squeaky, squeaky voice, "Oh, yes, you do. You have to behave yourself. You hear me? You have to behave yourself. You can't do whatever you want. You have to behave yourself." And the T-Rex's head started to shake back and forth. And he stood up on his feet, and Alfred kept screaming in his ear, "You better behave. You hear me? You better behave. Don't you start. Take ice cream cones. You get in line. You behave. You listen to Mr. Lion. You hear me?" And the T-Rex started to shake back and forth, and he stood up and he shook back and forth and back and forth. And the more he shook back and forth, the more Alfred screamed in his ear, "You better behave yourself. You hear me? You better behave yourself." And the T-Rex turned around and around in a circle, and boom! He fell down on the ground, and all his feet were kicking. And he said, "Make it stop! Make it stop!" And Mr. Lion stood up and walked over to him and said, "Are you going to behave now?" And the T-Rex started to say, "I don't have to be..." And Alfred started screaming in his ear, "Yes, you do! You better behave! You hear me? You better behave!" And the T-Rex kicked his legs, and said, "Make it stop, I'll behave! Make it stop, I'll behave!" And when Alfred heard that, he ran up out of the T-Rex's ear, down his neck, down his back, off his back leg, across the grass, under Mr. Lion's back leg, up onto his back, and up into the dark black hair on top of Mr. Lion's head. And the T-Rex staggered to his feet and went away through the forest. and the little animals had their ice cream cones. Well, the next day, all the animals were lined up at the magic rock when there was a smashing and crashing of branches. Then the treetops started to shake back and forth, and out stepped the T-Rex. And he looked down at all the little animals lined up in a line nicely, and they looked up at him. And then he walked back to the end of the line and took his place to wait for his ice cream cone. And that is the end of the story.